Pink. It's Pink. This is Yvette with Yvette's turn. Um, Let me get some water here. I decided to go ahead and do this lesson I was telling you all about, or this share, whatever you want to call it. I'm not trying to be anything that I'm not, but I know my giftings. This is one of them. I've been doing it since middle school, and this is what I'm fixing to do. Okay. Let me get some water. So y'all come on in. You're welcome. What is the purpose of life? People have asked that question. And y'all, I have notes here I'll be looking at. But let me see if I can. Hold on. Give me just a second here. Okay. What is the purpose of life? People have asked that question. Why am I here? What am I doing? What's my purpose? Uh, One of the main purposes, if not the main purpose, to have an incarnation here, to come here, you know, is to know yourself. There is an Egyptian saying that does say to know thyself. Okay. When I first looked it up on Google, uh, it actually credited Greek philosophers. But me knowing better, I asked Google again, didn't this saying know thyself really originate with Egyptians? Come on now, run it back, Google. Don't you start lying too. And then Google came on and told the truth. Yes, it does originally. That saying know thyself started in Egypt. Okay. So your main purpose is to know and understand yourself. What makes you tick? What your giftings are? What are you good at? What are you not good at? It is from, and y'all have notes here, it is from that place of knowing yourself and spending time with both your light side, the good sides of yourself, the positive sides of yourself, and the dark sides of yourself, because we have them both. That's what I don't like about religion, particularly Christianity, is that religion, particularly Christianity, um, harps on an imbalance of just living in light. That's not realistic. It's not feasible. Even in portions of scripture, God, now y'all say y'all believe in God. And somebody on my last live was asking me, do I believe in Jesus Christ? Y'all don't worry about who and what I believe in. Worry about yourself. You do not have to give an account for me. I do not have to give an account for you, if there is such a thing as even give an account. But the God of the Bible even dwells in darkness. He said light and dark is the same thing to me. I see in both of them clearly. So this thing about that religion pushes, particularly Christianity, there's a scripture over in the New Testament. This is not true, that in him is light and there is no darkness. No, that's not true. He just said the darkness and the light is the same to me. And actually, this God says, and I'm coming down and talking from the gods y'all know of and believe in. He said, I form the good and the evil. And says nothing goes down that I didn't do. I don't know who y'all know. I'm not talking to everybody, but I got some peepers in here that want to question me as if they are worthy. And you're not. If you thought I didn't know that, you are not worthy to be trying to question me. I just want you to know that I know it. I don't say everything. But Ecclesiastes 3 says there is a time for everything. And apparently, I need to make some stuff clear. It's that time. So know thyself, your light side, the good parts of you, the dark side, the bad parts of you. That envy and rage and anger and all of this stuff. I remember, and I wasn't even going this route. I remember I had just gotten married and I had anger issues. Okay. And I remember my husband and I, we were in our 20s, early 20s, had gotten into it. And then he had an argument. And he, went off and went like over a friend's house or something like that, or may have gone outside, something like that. I was angry and I had just gotten some groceries, okay, and had a carton of eggs. Honey, I threw those eggs. I threw those eggs all over the floor, threw them all over the floor. Well, first of all, being who I am now, and I do have light and dark side, but I have balance and control over it. Now, we're all human. We're human. I'm not saying I'm not human. I'm not saying I don't make mistakes, but I've learned I'm not an unwalled city. For those of you who know how to, who know scripture, I'm not an unwalled city. But anyway, let me tell this. I had to clean up the eggs, and I was like, this isn't right. I've got to clean this up. I've gotten angry. This ain't hurt nobody but me. I bought the eggs. That's my money. Now I have to clean it up. And then, why am I so angry? Well, it turns out on down the road, it got revealed. Spirit revealed why I had anger issues. Okay. And I went to counseling. That was a process. All of that. Okay. But when that day, I said, I'm going to have to get to the bottom of this. I got a Bible and went to, I think, is it Ephesians 5? Y'all, I didn't mean to even come over here, go this route, but I'm just going to go through here. Hold on. Let's see, where is it? No, Galatians, where it talks about the fruit of the Spirit. And it talks about the fruit of the Spirit and talks about the works of the flesh. Well, I went to the works of the flesh part and read through there, and then it had anger on there, and I got a pen and underlined it, and I went to divine and prayed. Then I was still in Christianity, and I started praying. I said, "Is something wrong? I'm angry, and I'm not even sure why. What's going on? I need some help." And so I began my journey, taking up my cross, which no one else can do for you. And you can't steal anybody else's journey because you too damn lazy. I'm not Christian. Text that was found and they formed into what's called the Bible that Christians use. This does not belong to Christians. I'm going to need y'all to get a clue. Drink some water. And so I went on my journey, and I'm still on that journey. And I've had improvements over time, still on the journey, and plan to stay on it. I shall stay on it. Okay. So what you want is for your light and dark sides to integrate. Christianity tries to put this false mask on it of just of love and light, and so does the pagan community of just love and light. No, that's out of balance. No wonder a lot of y'all shouldn't trust yourself to cross the street by yourself. You're out of balance. You should, your light side and dark side should integrate. And nothing should from without you should be able to run you. Know thyself. This is your purpose now. Now, light and dark, knowing yourself. That further purpose evolves into you knowing your giftings. Your giftings. Text says we've all been given gifts. With gifts that we were born with. Your gifts are not evil. Unless you use them for evil. And what I've come to find out, that these Christians, a lot of these Christians that swear, this person is doing magic and doing witchcraft. Y'all are real witches. A lot of y'all. And your Halloween mask that you wear 365 days of the year, except when you're at home or somewhere among people that you really like, and you let that sheep mask up and your inner wolf comes out. It's mostly y'all, the evil ones, hiding behind a cross. But doing this work, knowing yourself, part of that is discovering, learning, and knowing your giftings, and your giftings are not evil. And the reason that you are here is to know yourself, know your giftings, and help to raise the vibration of the earth. Scripture says that the earth groans for the real sons of God to take their place. What that does not mean every time a building opens that has a steeple on top of it, which is really a symbol for it's a phallic symbol. And knowing who you are and fulfilling your purpose on the earth does not mean being at some church building every time it opens. When scripture says that the earth groans for the sons of God to take their place, not be in a building somewhere shouting, talking about Jesus, 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 knowing your heart is full of hate for your own sibling, your own child, your own cousin, supposedly. But that's why we're here, to help raise the vibration of the earth and to bring the vibration of heaven back to earth, because it's fallen. Does not Revelation speak of a new heaven and a new earth? It doesn't say anything about getting rid of earth. It says a new heaven and a new earth. And we all have a part to play in that. But it starts with working on self. That's another thing. Christianity teaches deny thyself. No, baby, you need to start with self. Even in the natural, they parallel. The natural and the spirit parallel. When one is on an airplane, if for some reason the oxygen masks drop and people need to use the oxygen mask, it is a known rule that before you try to help anybody else and offer somebody else your oxygen mask, you need to take a swig of the oxygen first. Come on now. Ting. So it starts with self. And from your overflow of working on self, of being good to self, from the overflow of that is what you have to give other people. But there are people who think you should lay down your life for them. What about Jesus? I thought you believed in Jesus. Why do you need me to keep laying myself down as your servant to make you feel better? Something is wrong with that, and I won't be doing that anymore. Okay? So to raise the vibration of earth, know yourself, know your light side, your dark side, get to know your giftings. And from there, you can be of service, okay? And help raise the vibration of the earth, which is what we are here to do. And part of raising the vibration of the earth is learning to be kind to ourselves. From that overflow of being kind to ourselves, we have kindness to give to other people. Then we can be involved in good projects like wanting to fix sandwiches, for people. You hear about your daughter tells you that she's tutoring somebody at school, but that person is not paying any attention. When she asked why, they let her know, I'm hungry and I don't have food at home. She gives them her lunch, because she knows she has food when she gets home, comes home and tells you about it. And from there, you decide, even though you going through, about to get evicted, you start saying, okay, well, since this is getting ready to happen anyway, I may as well sow good seeds and start fixing sandwiches for the kids. And then when I drop my daughter off at school, I'm going to make a big poster sign and just say, stop and stand there in front of the school. Come get your sandwich if you didn't have time for breakfast. So nobody's pointed out or made to feel bad. Get your sandwich, go to class. The principal comes and asks you what you're doing, who you are. You let them know, and they think it's a good work. And then here comes everybody wanting to be a part and get involved. This is how we raise the vibration of the earth. But it starts with you taking up your cross and finding out what's wrong with you and fixing it. Okay? Knowing yourself is also your greatest form of protection. To know your strengths, to know your weaknesses, to know what you can stand to be around and what you can't, and what might take you out. What's your kryptonite and what you don't need to be around. These are the benefits of knowing yourself. Not only do you want to know your gifts, you want to get comfortable with them and how they operate in you. Because we got enemies out here, light workers and high vibrational people. We got enemies, got a lot of enemies trying to take away from a light worker, but they can take away from a light worker. Ephesians 6:12. Let me get over here. Y'all have to excuse me. I've been doing this a long time, and sometimes I get a little silly because I need to entertain myself in the mix. Because, like I said, I've been doing this. How old am I? I've probably been doing this about 40 years now. Okay. 45 years. I'd have to count. Okay. Ephesians 6:12 says, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness. Though, honey, I'm convinced it says spiritual wickedness, and I know that's what it means, but honey, I'm convinced some of these baby calves done incarnated and got them a body, and they call themselves fill in the blank. You fill in the blank. Spiritual wickedness in high places. We fighting this stuff. You can't not know your giftings. And then it's not enough for you to just know them. You need to get comfortable with them and how they work and operate in you. Because when these things come up against you, you don't need to be just trying to figure out how to turn your flashlight on. That's Ephesians 6:12. And then 2 Corinthians 10, 4 and 5 says, for the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds. Not just the band-aid of what it looks like is going on. It gets to the root of it and pulls it up, pulls the problem up by the root. Casting down imaginations and every high thing that exalts itself over the knowledge of God. Okay? This is why we need to know ourselves, to know our light and dark side, and for them to integrate, to help raise the vibration of the earth and to help heal people. Because when we get here to earth, these lower level entities are here and they start traumatizing human beings early. Ask me how I know. Okay, I've actually covered a lot of this. I'm looking at my notes, y'all. Every person comes here to earth with gifts and a purpose that will aid earth's recovery. Okay? Because scripture says that the earth groans for the sons of God to take their place and set things back in order. In essence, to help combat spiritual wickedness in high places. However, the masses of people don't get into the level of walking in purpose, your purpose in the earth, in discovering your giftings, because you can't fight wickedness in high places because you got to fight your cousin that don't like you and set you up. You got to fight. You can't get and focus on your giftings and your purpose to get in place to where you can fight wickedness in high places because your aunt is trying to mess you up. Local evil around the house. You know what I'm saying? And you get traumatized. Traumatized by what goes on in this house stays in this house. Traumatized by being sexually assaulted as a child. The adult in charge is told about it and then sits you down at the foot of their bed, offers you a piece of hard candy and says, you don't want to tell your parents because you don't want to be the cause of unrest between everybody. And then in your innocence, trusting said authority figure, you ask, well, what if I feel like I'm going to tell my parents? This is a child talking to an adult. I'm just, I'm kind of just throwing examples out there. I'm not saying what it is and what it ain't. I'm just throwing it out there. And the adult responds, well, if you feel like you're going to tell your parents what happened, you don't want to be a real, then just, and shows you how to self-harm. And then you spend decades of your life doing just that. Traumatized, you can't get to your purpose in knowing thyself and taking your place and help being fighting wickedness in high places because you traumatized by an authority figure who seemingly has a problem with you anyway. In adulthood, you ask authority figure, my Charlie's Angels lunchbox, it's an antique now. I don't want to sell it. I'd just like to have it because I loved my Charlie's Angels lunchbox. But come to find out, they sold your Charlie's Angels lunchbox. But did they sell the other person that they had care for? Did they sell their lunchbox? No, no, it's still there. And then when you mention it in a loving way, the person whose lunchbox didn't get sold, because the authority figure don't have a problem with that person, decides to pour salt in what they think is a wound by you just asking a question, and weaponizes that and says, who gets mad? Imagine getting mad about a lunchbox. Talking about trauma now that keeps you from getting to purpose, because you got purpose in fighting wickedness in high places, because you got to fight evil around your house. And the person that said this, I'm just giving examples. I'm not saying this stuff is true. Just assume it's all fictional, that I'm just pulling stuff out of my hat. The person that said this is a whole counselor, a whole multi-degree counselor. You know, a lunchbox is not just it's never really just about the lunchbox. You know that. Trauma that tries to stop you. And then I'll have the nerve to ask you over the at points in your life when you are talking about things and talking about your journey and talking about, not complaining, just talking about your journey and talking about how you're processing hurts and getting through it and transmuting those things. Well, what have you really been through that was so bad? Gaslighting. But said person is a counselor. I'm just making up stuff, okay? Here's why we encounter low vibrational beings in our life early on to cause harm to us so that we do not begin or grow in the knowledge of self, our giftings, and become instrumental in Earth's recovery. These are demonic entities and people used by demonic entities. Some of them, I am convinced, are the actual demonic entities incarnate. Okay? Because we're too traumatized at a local level by friends, by family who gaslight us about childhood lunchboxes. Just for example, you spend decades walking through hurt caused by persons who was supposed to be you fill in the blank. This is why divine or God told Abraham to move away, far away from his family of origin. Because Abraham's path was to be different from his father's path. His father was an idol maker. Divine wanted Abraham on a different path. Had Abraham stayed around his father would have been asking him, well, we the family business is, we believe this. We make idols. Why don't you want to believe in idols? And then play like they understand where you're coming from. Oh yeah, I respect that. And then I'll get around other people and yakety yak, talking about you going straight to hell. Okay? So Abraham, God divine, told Abraham to get away from around his folks, so that Abraham could heal, so he could discover divine for himself, not who he's being programmed or told to believe divine is. And if you don't believe it like it's been given to us, then you're going straight to hell. which is that even real? The way Christianity teaches. And some of you who have had dreams, some of you, yeah, I heard them crying. That's how I accepted my calling. I heard people crying out. I guess you did. If you grew up in Christianity and you've been taught about hell and fire and brimstone and all this, I guess you did hear that and see that. But Abraham had to go out, and it was under divine. Divine was guiding his life so he could go through his hermit mode, do his internal work without some little sillies trying to sit in the judgment seat they are not qualified to sit in. So Abraham could go through his hermit mode and take his fool's journey. I know I'm messing some of y'all up right here. The Bible was okay, but your tarot cards, it's not going to get you. You shouldn't be afraid of anything. If you are afraid of anything, I'm not saying use everything. Even your apostle Paul said everything is lawful, but not everything is expedient. There isn't anything you should be afraid of. Y'all believe Paul over Jesus, and there was some discrepancy. So I just told you what he said. There is nothing you are supposed to be fearful of. Whatever it is you are fearful of, that's the thing that can take you out. So Abraham obeyed divine and went on his path. It doesn't matter if anybody understands your path or not. Okay? Who gives a rip? I know I don't. So Abraham went on his journey so he could have peace, so he could discover divine for himself. So Abraham wouldn't be surrounded by familiars who think he owes them something. Because, we got those too. Feel like you owe them something. You don't know what you owe them, but they seem to think you owe them something. And so that these familiars, divine told Abraham to get away from his family and familiars, people that were familiar with him, so they wouldn't feel entitled, because Abraham became a very wealthy, rich man. And divine told Abraham to get away from these people because he was taking them in a different path that they don't even believe in, and was going to enrich him on that path. So get away from them so they can't say they made you and say that they are entitled to money that you have acquired through a path they don't even believe in or approve of. Ergo, it's not watch God's setup now. You think Stefano DeMera from Days of Our Lives can carry out a plan. Watch this setup. And I'm closing. So ergo, it's not appropriate for Abraham's father and family to benefit from Abraham's wealth or from his obedience to his path. Now, is it? When they were nowhere around while he walked it out. It's a divine setup. When they don't even approve of your path, right? Matthew 22:14 says, many are called, but only few chosen. So my closing words or closing word to people who have caused trauma in your life, my life, and kept us couldn't get into purpose earlier than we are or have, because we had to fight on local levels. Some of them tried to take you out, tried to take me out. But God had to separate you and took you a different path and took you all around. Here's the last word. because where God is taking you is going to enrich you. And it may be a path that people don't understand. And if they don't approve of it and don't understand it, they shouldn't profit from it, should they? Here's God's closing word. And I don't even like to say God said. You don't really hear me saying this, but this is one time I think he wants credit for this one. So in my closing, all of this and how God leads you and separates you in all of this is because he's going to enrich you and bless you. And people who feel entitled to you and your energy and what you produce, they don't have a right to it because they can't say they were any way around. God's closing word, checkmate. This has been Yvette with Yvette's Turn. Love y'all.